Hey, this is Carlos. Today I'll give you a tour around. Welcome to my shop. Whenever I look at shop tours, I primarily look forward to any organizational ideas or setups that I can utilize on my shop. This tour is my way to giving back to the community. Through the video, don't forget to drop me a comment about any setup that you would like to see in more detail. I have a couple of ideas and setups that you haven't seen yet on YouTube. Let's begin the tour. This is the main entrance to the workshop. As with any workplace, it is essential to have all safety equipment easily accessible right at the entrance. I built this shop towel inspired by a video from Travis at Shop Nation. If you haven't seen his work yet, I highly recommend go checking it out. I'll put a link in the description below. Right below the cabinet, I have my moisture meter, a remote control for the electric hoist. We'll see that in a moment. The ceiling fan, garage door opener, and the room air filter. And as for my right-hand side, I just have my apron and respirator. I also have a closet right here, which I basically put all my outdoor equipment just to keep it separated from the shop. As soon as you enter, right on the side, I have a cabinet where I'll keep all my paints, finishes, and consumables. Here's a sneak peek on what everything looks like. I simply don't want to be able to see this when I work on my shop, which is why I like to keep them hidden in this cabinet. On the left hand side, I have my utility sink. The two main key features are the built-in power washer setup and the sink itself, the dimensions. It's huge. So as a comparison, I have a 5-gallon bucket. I can easily place it with no problem and work on it. Although the cabinet's not finished yet, it is functional. And I know the countertop, it's made out of wood, it is sealed, and so far I haven't had any issues or there's no water damage. This is the bucket where I keep my cleaning supplies. As far as the power washer setup, I have a tee from the incoming cold line right into the power washer unit, which is located right underneath the sink. From there, it is connected through an extension to the hose reel. In order for me to be able to use it, I have to simply unlock the reel, flip a switch, and go to town. Once I'm done, I simply put the gun back in and reel the hose right back into place. I simply lock back in the hose, and that's pretty much it. So I'll be covering probably this setup when I finish up this cabinet on a later video. Ultimately, the most important part of a sink in the shop is for cleanup. The cabinets right on top of the sink hold all my different glues, WD-40s. I have some isopropyl alcohol, different waxes, some spatulas. At the very top, I have some additional PPE. At the very top of the cabinet, I have some spare bandsaw blades and some helmets, spare parts. On this cabinet, I keep on the bottom all the different tapes that I could use. In the middle, I have some additional gloves and different jigs. And even though it doesn't look pretty, I mean, I would like to think that all shops look like that, so it should be fine for the time being. Just shh, don't tell anybody. This is my Leguna lathe, and this compact lathe is amazing. Due to its size, you can put it in a workbench, obviously, and I used to have it on its mobile base, but I opted to remove it from it due to floor space. You could push it backwards and pull it forward whenever you want to use it, and it's pretty nice. So you could dial in the speed based on the material you're going to use, right? And super quiet and really smooth. This is what it looks like or sounds like at full speed. Even though it might sound loud, it's actually not. Go to back to zero and boom, simply perfect. In this station, I have the essentials from a soldering iron, this fume extractor. This one was 3D printed. Basically, I just added an oil fan, 120 volts, just pretty much added a carbon filter, and it works really good. The colors resemble the Hako, I don't even know how to say it. Hope I'm doing it right. Station, and what else? Pliers, crimpers for all the miscellaneous, jobs. Bunch of mini drawers to be able to store spare parts and components. Additional components on the top. The heat gun. This one's just basically in a holder made out of PVC. So you take it out, use it, you know, do the thing, put it back in once you're done. Right underneath the station, I have this stool that I can roll anywhere in the shop. I utilize these two cabinets in order to store any additional parts and components. For instance, right on top of here, I have a Dremel electric screwdriver, label maker, a couple scissors. Additional parts right here, bearings, timing belts, pulleys, cables, heat shrink. And it's the same concept throughout this set of drawers. Right in this corner, I have my Vidmar cabinet. This cabinet is super strong and heavy. It is ideal for holding heavy tools, or in my case, I use it as a dedicated area for my bench vise. In the cabinet itself, I hold a bunch of miscellaneous electrical connectors and oversized components that I have nowhere else to place. Right in the corner, I have this shelf unit that I use as my charging station. Primarily, I carry the Volt and Milwaukee batteries, but I have a couple of Festool and Ego batteries as well. On the bottom, I have this cordless miter saw from Ryobi. It's really nice for doing a couple of cuts outside. And I mean, that way it prevents you from bringing the pieces that you got to cut into your shop. So I highly recommend it if you need it. I have a pack out box where I basically keep a bunch of open-ended wrenches and channel locks, if you will. So it's pretty handy just to keep it up here. On the bottom part of the shelf unit, I have offcuts that I keep accumulating like anybody else, like from project to project, and this is what I use this for the moment. This is not your typical miter saw station. It doesn't have all the bulky cabinets that take a lot of space. Mine is simply mounted on an adjustable height table that allows me to level out my offcuts with the table that's right next to it. I've added a removable fence that allows me to have different positive stops for repetitive cuts. Let me show you. The first one rides on the fence, so you could place it on the place of your choice and have repetitive cuts based on this mark. Assuming you need to make a different size cut and you don't want to mess around with this one, then you flip up this one, place your second stop wherever you need to, and now you have another repetitive cut at a different position. And you could go back and forth between these two without changing the locations. Now the two drawers that come with the bench basically are to store miscellaneous tools. So the first and top one is basically to hold all my open-ended wrenches. The one on the bottom holds a bunch of like pliers, cutters, and a small socket set. As far as dust collection goes, I have my miter saw connected to a shop vac located right underneath the workbench. Now I have my shop vac and miter saw connected to a switch box. This automatically controls the shop vac on and off whenever I use the saw. Although miter saws are not best known for their dust collection, this one kind of does the trick. No, it doesn't. It captures only half of the dust in its current configuration. I will improve that in a different video. As far as the next station goes, this is my sanding and drill station. The sanding equipment is just on top of my toolbox / workbench that acts as a support for the offcuts of my miter saw. The drills are basically on these cutouts made out of plywood that, it makes it pretty easy just to take the one you need and put it back in once you're done. On top of this, I have my Festool track saw and a laser system with all my drill bits. So this is pretty neat, just you look for the one you want and take it out, put it back in, and that's it. Now let's take a quick look into the toolbox workbench. Right on top of the larger drawer, I have a bunch of miscellaneous T-tracks, T-squares, and whatnot. A couple of hand planes that I don't use, but I need to keep them somewhere, so here they are for now. On the left side of the toolbox, the drawers are my tap and die set, all the files, random screwdrivers, all the hammers and mallets. Bottom drawer is just miscellaneous hardware from drawer slides, lazy susans, etc. In the middle section, the top drawer, I have all my dovetail, Japanese, and hand saws. Next, a dedicated drawer for all my router bits. In the next space, I have some edge banding, a geared wrench socket set, and a Ryobi tire inflator. And at the very bottom, all my corded and battery operated tools. As far as the right hand side of drawers, coming from the very top, I have a hacksaw with some extra blades. Random templates, all my chisels, more edge banding on different levels. At the very bottom, an angle grinder and small blades. Next up is my Nova drill press. This drill press is like the Lamborghini of all drill presses. It has a bunch of features, but I'll probably just walk you through one of their main ones. So as it is right now, I'm having a speed of 900 RPMs. To change that, I will go to the menu. So this is just like a mini computer. I can run to the different programs and applications here. So I'm gonna stick to the first one, which is the speed chart. So from here I can click on it and I can select a different type of bit that I'll be using on this application. Forstner bit, bullet pilot point bit, hole saw. I'm gonna stick to my twist bit. So the size for this real bit, it's a 1/4 inch. And so I'll stick to that range and I'm gonna be driving into a piece of 2x4, which is a softwood. So I'll select that one, the recommended speed. I'll confirm this and now it's set up. At this point, I just simply turn it on. It will ramp it up and it's gonna also provide me the feedback for the load and real feedback on the speed. Once I'm done, I turn it off and that's pretty much it. This is the Woodpecker's drill press table. I have a couple of jigs that I utilize to hold down the work that I'm drilling through. So even though it's not the original table, I can still perform the nickel test and see how this will perform in terms of vibrations. Nickel test successful. Along with my drill press, I basically used this Husky Toolbox to keep all my bits organized. Let me show you. At the very top, I keep my drill press buys, some cutting fluid, the brad nailer, mechanical pencils, and a case with additional drill bits. On the top drawers, I keep my smallest hardware and all my Allen wrenches. On the bottom drawer, I keep all my different bits and drill press accessories. And the rest of all the remaining drawers are for all fasteners, bolts and nuts, and general hardware. The whole idea of this cabinet is to have all the drill bits and accessories handy in order to use with the drill press. Right on the third corner of my shop, I have my JetDos Collector. I've limited my number of runs to 3. 1 at the bottom with the flexible hose and 2 in very short runs to my table saw and my bandsaw. I'll give you a quick demo on how I switch between lines for my dust collection. The top line is primarily dedicated for my table saw, and this is where I keep it 90% of the time. Whenever I want to use my bandsaw, I have to switch this flexible hose and put it on the bottom line. If I ever want to use my joiner or planer, I basically have to switch at this point the blast gates, hit the top one, pull the bottom one, take my flexible hose and connect it on either the planer or joiner depending where I need it. Here for the joiner. And here for the planer. And I guess just to state the obvious, right on top of my dust collection, I have my lumber rack, and next to it, I have my clamp rack. And now, my Leguna bandsaw. In this video demonstration from Leguna, you can see one of the main safety features of this saw, the disc brake. It utilizes a micro switch to stop the blade and motor almost instantaneously.
3, 2, 1. See what I mean? It's tough to measure any delayed response there.
I will quickly show you a dust collection mod I have performed on my bandsaw. Regarding my bandsaw dust collection setup, I follow the instructions from the Sneaker show. I'll put a link in the description below with a video. It's a 2-minute video long that basically walks you through how to set this up exactly as I have it here. You are probably wondering at this point, what are all the blue tapes around the shop? So whenever I move into this shop, I decided to mark the location of each one of the studs here for the convenience of knowing where to, drill into. And I mean, it's just for convenience, right? I decided to use this magnetic stud finder, and this has made the job pretty nice and easy. I highly recommend it. If you're enjoying this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. This is my saw stop configuration. I added the router kit that usually goes on the right hand side. However, I only kept the small wing on the right hand side and moved the router table to the left. I also kept the original wooden wing, if you want to call it, and had to modify the original rails in order to make all the pieces work together and get me a larger working area. For the dust collection at the blade, I have a Festool dust extractor that it's basically hidden and tucked away on the back of my table saw. The outfit table, it's on wheels and it's pretty much raised so that I can clear the dust collection hose that comes on the back of the table saw. I try to keep everything related to my router table in here, so I keep my fans at the bottom of my outfit table. Kind of like does the trick. I mud my fence just like a video on the Wood Whisperer. I have an aluminum fence with some 3D printed caps due to the sharp edges, the GSM stock guides, and the remotes for the dust collection. Right at the bottom right side of my table saw, I have this cabinet to keep away all the tools and jigs related to my table saw. On the very top, I have my crosscut sled, which you can easily slide in and out. And coming from the top drawer, I have a feather board, brake cartridges, push sticks, riving knives, and gloves. In the next drawer, I keep all my data stack blades and all the inserts. And the last drawer is for my miter gauge and my micro jig ripper. Attached to the left-hand side of my table saw, it's my router table. The router table fence, I keep it under the outfit table to make it a little bit more convenient. Underneath the router table, I have my DOS box. I have a Bora 3 horsepower router underneath here. It's really nice and powerful. I have a safety cover for my on and off switch. On the left hand side, I have the incoming port for the dust collection, and I have the tools required to switch router bits and to move the router up and down. This will be a quick demo on how do I operate my router lift. Notice how I am on the lock position. So I'll take my tool and unlock it. Once it's unlocked, I can move my router bit up or down depending if I go to the right or to the left. So I'll basically spin this until I get my router bit to a desired height. I can make micro adjustments going left or right, and once I get to the desired height, I'll prevent any further motion by locking it back in place. And last but not least, this is my DIY laser cutting machine. I built this laser CNC machine using the build guide from Rob from the YouTube channel Further Fabrication. Link in the description below. Here's a quick look to all the internal components. You have the main controller, which is a white box on top of the black power supply. That power supply is the one that controls basically the output of the laser tube. Then on the left side, you have smaller power supplies and the drivers for all the motors and all the cables that basically connect the switches from the front, emergency stops, and all the cables that basically connects to all the internal elements in the assembly. As far as communication and controlling, basically I have an Ethernet cable that runs through the back of the machine into a computer. The equipment can be completely operated through Lightburn on a laptop that I have hidden away right there. So I just have a wireless mouse and keyboard, and I can do all the magic without even pulling out the laptop. Continuing around the shop, this is my wood cart. This is where I basically put all my offcuts and different pieces of plywood. Nothing fancy to it, just everybody needs a place where to store it and park all their wood. And right at the center of the shop, I have my DeWalt planer and my Powermatic joiner. And finally, my SplitRubo Workbench. Something that I like about my workbench is that you can step on these two levers, and at this point, you can move the workbench anywhere you want. So you can move it around, go in full circles. Well, obviously the weight pulls me over. But once you put it in the place of your choice, you step back on the levers. And this workbench goes back to being solid and static. So something else that I wanted to show you, that is my Jet air filter. That's a 3D printed Majors mask, but that's not really what I wanted to show you. Basically, at the beginning of the shop tour, I basically show you a bunch of controllers. Now, this remote control right here controls my electric hoist, which is right on the attic. This allows me to lift a lot of heavy equipment to do maintenance underneath. An example will be to lift my dust collection to add the casters at the bottom, or my table saw or whatnot. I also use it to basically lift my lawnmower, my zero turn, and be able to do repairs or maintenance in general. So this is pretty handy, and I highly recommend to have an electric hoist with a remote control on every shop. Hey, thank you so much for joining me on this tour. If you have enjoyed this video, I'll really appreciate it if you can like the video and subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much, and until next time.